Hello, welcome back. My name is 𝕂𝔸 𝔸𝔻𝔻 and I am here to amplify edifying. I had to take a week off and rest and work. So there's only so much I could juggle, and so I had to let last week go in terms of releasing something on here. But I thought I would bring something because it is what in the United States is going to be called Thanksgiving week. So this message is relevant for that time. The conversation I've been having with God has been around the past and the present and the future, and how the past cannot be changed, but the present can be paid attention to, and what is done in the present will then configure what the future looks like and contribute to what the future looks like. So the conversation he's been having with me is, you can not change what has been done in the past. You might have some gripes about what you were not taught and how you were raised by those who were your caregivers and your parents, and the things they didn't teach you, the wisdom, the knowledge that they didn't impart into you that they could have and that they had. There's things that our caregivers and our parents growing up did not know. Those things they couldn't teach us, but there's a plethora of information that they did know, and some of us were not taught. Some of you at home were not taught those things that they did know. And there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of angst around that. And so I've been having that conversation with God. And he was saying to me, the things that you were supposed to be taught and you were not taught, there's nothing you can do about it. But I asked him, there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it in terms of changing that it happened in that way. But I said, what can I do about it so I'm not in angst about it, so I can let it go? So I can release it and be okay with the present, because that release and being okay with the present, that's the missing link for me. And he said to me, he said this. He said, write down all the things that you were not taught, that you felt you should have been taught. The information, the knowledge, the wisdom that you were not taught, that you should have been taught. And these things, some even today, are missing from your knowledge vault and your knowledge archive. These things are still missing. And the ways that you were raised, that you are grieved about, that I shouldn't have been raised in that way. Write these things down. And he said, come to me. If you were not raised in a way that you shouldn't be raised, write it down and create a vision for what you think it should have been like. And come to me and ask me to give it to you, to raise you to have knowledge, to raise you to have wisdom around money, to raise you to know how to bathe yourself, to raise you to know how to navigate the world as an adult, and how to work with God in order to fulfill his destiny and his purpose for you in this life. The things you were not taught, that wrong, that injustice can be righted. And he's saying the ways, create a vision, write it down. Write the vision of what you thought it should have been like and bring it to him. And he's saying, bring it to him so that he can give you that. And you ask for that. You have a right to ask for that. You missed it, and it's a gap. And the only person who can fill the gap of your caregivers, your parents, your community, everything that everybody who was in an authority position should have filled in your life, the only person who can now fill it in your life is God. If people didn't give you information, maybe they didn't want to, maybe they didn't have the capacity to, they were in survival mode, maybe they just didn't want to. These are things you cannot change, but what you can change is how the world would say, you do these things for yourself. Write them down. Here's what you do for yourself. Write them down, the vision of what you had and what you would have wanted, and say, God, I ask that you would give me this. This is what I would have wanted. Everything that you weren't taught, God, I am perishing in this area because I wasn't taught. I wasn't given exposure. I wasn't even alerted to at least do research for myself. I'm mad about that. But now I bring this gap of information, this lack of information that I believe is very important information for my life. I bring this gap to you, and I ask that you would guide me in filling this gap with the information. Guide me to information, guide me to wisdom, or fix it in the way that you see most fit to fix it, oh God. If it's guiding me to knowledge, guide me to it. If it's guiding me to wisdom and knowledge, guide me to it. If it's guiding me to a mentor, guide me to that. But these are things that can be recovered, and these wrongs can be righted, is what God is saying. If information, knowledge, and wisdom was kept from you when you were growing up, God is saying, I can rectify this. Bring the vision of what you would have wanted to be done to me and ask it of me to fulfill it in your life. And I am faithful to do it for you and fill the gap, because the gap that the only entity, the only God, the only anything that can fill the gap of what was missed by your parents, by your caregivers growing up, is the only one who can do that fully and abundantly and restore you to fullness and make you whole is God. Call him into those voids, call him into those lacks, call him into that place of perishing where you weren't given what you needed. Call him into that to fill the gap and to guide you. Daily, ask him for instructions, ask him for commands to guide you in the recovery process while you are still moving forward in your presence. Because the recovery process is about being able to inform your present so that you are in wholeness and in fullness in your present. And you don't have this sense of injustice that you're walking around with and this angst. So in order to do that, work with God. Go to him. If you want restoration and restitution, you only get it when you go to the throne of God, throne of mercy, the throne of grace, boldly and say, I need restoration. And it's not going to be this thing that happens on its own. That's the other thing. He's going to lead you to information, and you're going to have to interact with that information and take it in and apply it. You're going to lead you to wisdom, interact with that wisdom, take it in and apply it, and repeat the application until it's a part of how you do things. And now what was missing and that you weren't given is no longer missing, because you have come into collaborative work with God to recover and to reinstate and to instill what was not instilled and should have been instilled into you and invested into you. God is saying there's a way. Now that you're looking at the people from across the table, it's Thanksgiving. From across the room, it's Thanksgiving. And you are still in angst about what they didn't teach you, that they could have taught you, that they absolutely knew. Now God is saying how you let it go is that you write these things down. I wish I would have been taught to do this. I wish I would have been taught to do that. I wish I would have been taught to bake bread. That's one of the things I wish I would have been taught. I wish I would have been taught to bake bread. And then that's simple. You can find a tutorial on how to bake bread, a basic 101 tutorial on how to bake bread. You can rectify some of these things just on your own. And the rest of it, you can rectify it working with God. To say, make me whole, make me new, make me whole, work with me to be filled in those places that I feel like I wasn't nurtured and filled by those who were bringing me up. God is decreeing that there is a source, there's a means of fixing what wasn't done for you that should have been done. He's saying there's hope, and it's not an intangible hope. It's a solid hope where the things that you weren't taught you can learn. The things that you weren't taught, he can teach you. The places that you could have gone and found out, the places that you needed to be exposed to, he can expose you to. All the things that you need to know, he can do that for you. God can do these things for you. Ask him to. Bring your visions to him. Bring your wish lists of how you wish it would have been done, how you hoped it wouldn't be done, and it wasn't done. And you still hold space that says, oh my goodness, if I had that information or had that knowledge, I would have been far. Well, bring it to God. Ask him to teach you. Ask him to accelerate you. Ask him to restitute you by accelerating you and override some protocol for you, so that you catch up and come up to speed. God can do that. The story that he brought to mind as I was thinking, I was talking to him about this, is the story of Gideon in Judges 6. If you read the story of Gideon, because he was not taught in the tradition of where he came from, and he came from now a Judaic lineage that had turned to idolatry and had not taught him about the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. He didn't have the information, the wisdom, the historic background that he needed in order to thrive in the way that he could have as a posterity connected to the Abrahamic promises. He didn't have that knowledge. So there he was hiding in that wine press and had an encounter with God. And everything he didn't know, he had this interaction with God where he, in trying to build his faith in this God he didn't know, who was now introducing himself to him. Gideon was now having an interaction that was building him up in knowledge and wisdom and knowing about how faithful God is. And when he had enough information his parents didn't teach him. When he had enough information, he moved and he became this warrior that he didn't know was inside of him. He became this wise leader in war that he didn't know was inside him. He became this leader of men who would go to war with him and win wars because God said, go and you will win. Do this, do that, do that. He became this person who now knew how to not be the tail end, but who knew how to be the head. It's not too late. You've not lost out. Go back to God and ask him to fill the knowledge gaps that you were deprived of being taught or exposed to, or them being passed on to you because people were being, whoever was bringing you up was being negligent or overwhelmed and just in survival mode, or whatever the reasons are. You'll never know. You can go back to God. You can learn everything that you're missing, and he can lead you to everything, every bit of knowledge, every bit of wisdom that you're missing. You can recover all, and you can repaint your life with him such that it looks like the life that was informed. It looks like the life that all that you have a gripe about not having been passed on to you. It looks like the life now that is fully filled to the full until it overflows, that is made whole because God has intervened and brought the gift of knowledge, the gift of instruction and command, the gift of wisdom that lifts the perishment and casts it out and establishes prosperity moving forward, establishes knowledge of what to do because it's being ordered and being relayed and communicated by God. There's hope. There's no such thing as a lost cause because you weren't taught. God can teach you. God can rear you. God can nurture you. God can grow you up. God can impart wisdom into you. God can expose you to things that you need exposure to in order to grow in your mind and to grow in your conceptualization capacity. There's no lost cause. You can recover all. Work with God. Tell him tonight, I've come to recover what wasn't taught. I've come to recover the benefits of what wasn't taught, what wasn't imparted, what wasn't passed on. Work with me. so that all the things that should have been passed on to me are now taught to me by you, and that I catch up and grow as I was supposed to. It's not too late. You can recover all. That's it. I'll talk to you again next time. Stay blessed and be blessed. Bye.